Welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast. I'm Victoria Gallagher, your host. Have you been attempting to use law of attraction or hypnosis to attract financial abundance, a soulmate, or career success? Would you like to be happy, motivated, and successful? Have better health, enjoy more fulfilling relationships, overcome struggle, and gain mastery over your life? Then join me on this amazing self-help podcast where you'll unleash the power of your mind. I'll be sharing 20 years of wisdom and techniques of hypnotherapy, law of attraction, visualization, meditation, personal growth, positive affirmations, and other effective methods to help you tap into the great power which resides in your mind and become the best version of yourself. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 93. I'm Victoria Gallagher, the Law of Attraction hypnotist and #1 best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction, Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps. So be sure to stop by HipTalk.com and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course. And for our listeners who found us through the Power of Your Mind podcast, you can get 35% off your first order of hypnosis downloads when you apply the code podcast to your shopping cart. Also, be sure to download our latest HypnoCloud app from the iTunes and Google Play stores. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Erika Flint. Erika Flint is an award-winning hypnotist, 3-time best-selling author, speaker on hypnosis and self-actualized mind, and a co-host of the popular podcast series, Hypnosis, Etc. She is also the founder of Cascade Hypnosis Center for training and services in Bellingham, Washington. Erika's business, Cascade Hypnosis Center, employs 5 full-time hypnotists and drives a $1 million annual run rate. Today, Erika is going to share some of her insights about hypnosis for self-actualization. So welcome to the show, Erika.
Thank you for having me, Victoria. It's great to be here.
Yes, it's great to have you here, and it's just wonderful to be able to interact with with my colleagues during this time. You and I have never actually met in person. I don't think you do a lot of the hypnosis conferences. I don't know. Do you?
I do. I stick to one because they're just a lot of work for me, and my business is very busy. Most of my business is certifying new hypnotists. So I'm out there. I'm talking to people that haven't heard of hypnosis yet or in different fields, but I usually I attend the National Guild of Hypnotists conference every single year. And I think we've been Facebook friends for years, but I don't think that we've ever met. So
we haven't interacted. Yes. So it's nice to finally meet you in person or, not person, but about as person as we're going to get these days.
That's right. Yeah. It's pretty close.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about hypnosis from your perspective. It's always fun to have my other colleagues on the show because, we have different ways of explaining what hypnosis is and different perspectives on it. And so I'd love to kind of get your whole perspective on, just what hypnosis is, how it works, and let's just get started with how you even got started in the field.
Sure. Yeah. So I was a software engineer for many years. I was working in Silicon Valley, but I became really unhappy, I would say, in my life, not with the job per se. It was a great job. I do love programming computers and everything that goes along with that. However, I just got to a really, really low point in my life. Mm-hmm. And through that experience, I ended up in the hospital. I'll make a long story pretty short here, but I ended up in the hospital deciding whether I wanted to continue living or not. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was really, it was really horrific. I look back at that time now with a lot of gratitude and grace because of the way that actually, with deep suffering and a lot of that negativity, when we come out the other side of that, we have a lot of compassion, and we learn a lot of things about ourselves and what it means to be alive, and what makes us want to be alive, and the work that we want to do in the world. And so after that, I started doing a lot of spiritually seeking. I didn't know it at the time, but now I realize what I was doing. That was what was missing in my life, was a spiritual approach, something that I felt was bigger than me, something that made me excited to get up in the morning and be of service to the world, and be helpful and do work that I could be proud of, that type of a thing. And so when I came across hypnosis, because I had looked at all sorts of other things, Reiki, energy healing, breath work, all sorts of things like that. And I came across hypnosis, and I remember sitting in the room from the first hypnosis class that I took, which was just like a local little kind of introductory course, when I had this light bulb moment, and I realized, oh my gosh, hypnosis allows us to reprogram how we think and feel. Mm-hmm. And what a wonderful tool, because as a programmer, I loved writing programs to achieve certain outcomes for software. And I realized a lot of the times when we feel stuck, or a lot of times when we feel overwhelmed, or our nervous system is getting overloaded, there are absolutely things that we can do in order to get ourselves back into the place that we actually want to be. And I don't think that, now there's more people that understand this, and I've been in this field for almost, 7+ years now. There's plenty of people that understand this, but there's so many more in the general public. I had no idea what hypnosis really was up until, 7 or 8 years ago. I really thought it was like your standard, something that you see in the movie that's not real, right?
Right. So many people.
Yeah, like a funny story or an interesting story, right?
That is, we have so many parallels going on here. Number one, just the way that you said that, when, you're facing those darkest moments, which I think right now in this time, it's March, 2020, for those of you who are maybe listening to this 5 years from now. But today is March 20th, 2020, and we're going through a global crisis right now. We're all facing some of the darkest times. And I think out of that is going to come a lot of significant feelings of compassion, and what you also experienced. And it was also interesting too, because we both seem to come from these backgrounds. I came from a financial background, and you came from a technical background, so it's not something that would be expected of us to get into, to get involved with.
Not a counseling, therapeutic, or anything like that, which is another common question people ask. Do you have to have, some type of a counseling background in order to be a hypnotist or things like that? And, the answer is no.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's really interesting. So, so you went through that time, you got yourself, certified in hypnotherapy, and then, so, let's just, so fast forwarding to today, I'm a client and I come into you and I ask you, so what is this hypnosis? Like, what is it? How does it work?
How does it work? Well, it helps you tap into a deeper part of who you are. Mm-hmm. So have you ever known that you want to be able to do something? So you kind of know it cognitively, but in the moment in your heart, you just don't feel like doing it, or you just never follow through. Isn't that interesting? And as a matter of fact, right, I'm assuming you're a very smart and successful woman. So it's like, I'm sure that when you want to do something, you go research it, you look it up, you go figure it out. You might ask your friends, and then you just follow through and complete it. But when there are times when all of that and you still don't follow through, you have to consider that maybe there's something else going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many of those things, there's those habits, those habitual, you want to lose that weight, or you want to stop fighting with your spouse, or you want to, and it's like, you kind of know logically what you're supposed to do about that, but you just, you don't do it.
You just don't follow through. Right. And I really, the way that I like to describe it to a lot of my clients is, imagine that you walk in a completely dark room. And in this completely dark room, you are given a flashlight. You can think of a flashlight as your conscious mind, and whatever you point that flashlight at, you're going to be able to see whatever the flashlight is pointing at.
I love that analogy.
Yeah. So that's our attention, right? And our conscious mind has the ability for us to pay attention to what we want to be paying attention to. Now, with hypnosis, what we get to do is we get to tap into the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is a bigger part of who we are. I know you don't need to know any of this, Victoria. You already understand this. But
for my audience,
right.
People have never even heard of this before. So yes, please do tell.
Right. Okay, so you walk in the same dark room, completely pitch black, but this time you just flick the light on. And this is what hypnosis gives us access to. It's an illuminated, overview of every single thing that's going on. And what I think is interesting to a lot of my clients is that for the most part, they have already, whatever it is the issue that they've come to see me for, they've already tried to address it in many ways of their life. It's still, people aren't going to the hypnotist right out of the gate right now. Someday, hopefully they will, but they've already tried to resolve these issues. And so when we flick on that light, what tends to happen is some of those old stories, some of those old situations, and those what we call limiting beliefs, things that we might have picked up on when we were a kid, accepted to be truth at the time, and then kind of get ingrained into who we are as a person, are still there, active and alive, things we've thought that we've fixed. And so it's almost like in this story, you flick on the light and you see something in the corner and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I dealt with that years ago. No, yes. It's still there. It's still there impacting you. So the time that you were bullied as a kid, the time that you were left at the mall and nobody came to pick you up and you were scared and nervous and felt like nobody cared about you, the time you were dumped, the time you were bullied or ashamed, all of those things, even if you have addressed them in some other ways, if there's still a problem in your life and you're not able to do what you think you should be able to do, it's very likely that some of those old stories and those old beliefs and those old experiences are still impacting you without you realizing it.
And I love that, because when you say that, it gives hope to people that there is a reason. There's a very logical, rational reason why you keep hitting the roadblocks and you keep ending up stumbling over the same thing and struggling over and over and over again. And it's like you're not broken.
Yep.
But you, for some reason, my book fell down.
Something really powerful at that moment, I think.
Yeah.
You said you're not broken, and your book's like, hello. Right?
You're not broken. Just something is miswired in your mind, and you can fix that. Because it's, we have these super, if it's powerful enough to stop you, then it's powerful enough for you to rewire and let it, right. And to program the right information in to help propel you forward.
And I like how you say that it's rational, because a lot of times people like to pit emotion against something being rational. And one is kind of more thought-based, right? What we might consider our conscious mind, cognitive, just thought-based, and kind of the heart-centered, more subconscious is more emotional. But the reality is those emotions are based in rationality too. So if you had been hurt in your past, or if there's a certain way of being in your past that was painful to you, that's where your body's going to give you a sense of emotion. And that emotion is there to get you, to motivate you to do something. And so even our emotions you could consider are being grounded in something rational, even if it's erroneous. And that's what's so awesome about hypnosis, because it's rational to your subconscious. But when we go in as hypnotists and we are able to help our clients, what we realize is a lot of that stuff, it's erroneous. So it was based on a misperception about something that our brain has been assuming is true. We take a second look at it now and it's like, oh my gosh, that was never true. That was never the truth for me.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. So what is going on in the mind of an entrepreneur, and how can hypnosis help with that?
I think hypnosis, and a lot of the work that I've been doing lately, because I do have hypnotists that work at our center who are doing what we might consider the bread and butter of hypnosis, stopping smoking, eating healthy. And, my first 2 books are on losing weight with hypnosis. So we see a lot of clients for that. But I think for entrepreneurs, there's a couple of things. You have the entrepreneurs who are dealing with what we would consider a negative space. And that tends to look like procrastination and worried about money. Those are a couple of things that I help a lot of entrepreneurs with. So they're concerned about money, and they're procrastinating on certain things. They're not getting certain things done. So they're not showing up and being the person that they want to be. Okay.
Right.
I still help a lot of entrepreneurs with how to show up in bigger ways. So some of them are still they're still habitually drinking too much because they're stressed out, or they want to be on stages. And so they want to lose weight and look really awesome up on stage, that type of a thing. Right. Mm-hmm. But as far as entrepreneurial style issues, a lot of it does have to do with kind of the mindset of money, and not worrying about their future and being able to show up and serve in bigger ways.
Yeah. And especially right now, you must be getting a lot of people coming to you because of money fears and things, that are going on. I mean, we can't even right now interact face to face in a lot of cases.
Right.
And a lot of people haven't even, begun to start to do online sessions. That's like totally new to them. So, but, so people are dealing with these procrastination issues. Mm-hmm. They're dealing with financial fears. I would also probably submit self-confidence issues, just being confident. And, you have a lot of people that I always hear about, with the imposter syndrome. It's like, I don't know enough, or people are going to find out that I'm just a normal person.
Try to do this, right? Yeah. And you're right. And so, we have kind of the whole anxiety side of things, right? Mm-hmm. And so anxiety, I'm too stressed. I'm drinking too much. I'm eating too much. I'm smoking too much. I'm not sleeping, right? So that's the whole anxiety side of things. And then on the flip side of that, you have kind of like the not inspired, not motivated, and procrastinating. And then the imposter syndrome that you mentioned too. Procrastination is really interesting. In my experience, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with on procrastination, they believe they're supposed to be doing things based on what the world says they think they should be doing. Mm-hmm. And so there's some really interesting things happening when you kind of peek under the covers of procrastination. People like, oh, I'm supposed to have a podcast, or, oh, I'm supposed to, everybody else is writing a book. I'm supposed to write a book, but I just can't seem to get the book written. And then you help the client and you realize, well, writing a book has never been a dream of theirs. They're just doing it to try and reach a larger audience. And then when they really get true to themselves, they realize, hey, the way for me to reach a larger audience is to create videos or to have a YouTube channel. Something like that. So a lot of people are getting their wires crossed and feeling like obligated to do something when it's really not in their best interest.
Yes, I can relate to that, because, I do a lot. I kind of have my hands in a lot of different things, between public speaking and the podcast and the app and the hypnosis recordings and the online courses. And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, this person's doing that. Yeah, I need to have one of those. I need to have one of those, and it's just like your head can just, and it really can lead to being, I think, unproductive and unfocused if you try to, look at what everybody else is doing. And so, I've been kind of in the process myself of just trying to narrow things down and just get these things narrowed down to like just a few things,
Yeah. Well, it looks like you're having fun with it though.
I am. I definitely do have fun with it.
So that's different. I think that's a little different. I mean, we should all kind of focus, but I'm kind of the same way. It's like, oh, that looks fun. Let's try that. And let's see if does that make my heart sing? Does that really make me happy? Can I show up fully and at 100% and allow life force energy to move through me while I'm creating? Can you really kind of step into this role of this beautiful creator of who you are and allow that to flow and create? And if that's true, then keep doing it. There's no limit that we can do.
I agree. I do. I totally agree. I think for me, just, I get vulnerable sometimes with my guests because I think it's good to have some authentic conversation going on. And, for the longest time, I go back and forth about whether I really want to be a public speaker or not. And the thing is I always, after I give a seminar presentation, I always like, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. I love this. And the lights are, you see the lights turning on, in people's heads and people tell you, oh my God, that was amazing and blah, 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 blah. And you feel really good after it's done. Mm-hmm. But then, it's kind of like there's all the stuff leading up to that you have to kind of go through and get over and overcome. And I think, do I really want to do this? Is this something why did I sign up to do this? I'm not even sure, and all the pressure and all the, like, there's the stuff that I go through, the maybe lack of confidence. I don't know what it is, but I go through these moments of uncertainty and not sure if that's what I was really put on this earth to do. Maybe I was meant to just be behind the scenes of this, Wizard of Oz, digital audio person. And, so I go back and forth about it because, like, I love being on stage. I wanted to be a singer when I grew up. I wanted to be a rock star. So I kind of like the, the crowd and having a bunch of people, that I'm feeding off of and giving this material to. But yeah, it's, anyway, I mean, do you deal with people that, they kind of go back and forth and they have that like dilemma, like, I'm not really sure if this is what I really want to do or not. If you find value in this personal growth related material, I strongly recommend that you sign up for your $1 trial to my Personal Growth Club. Just head on over to personalgrowthclub.com and get a whole month of premium Personal Growth Club video training materials, meditations. You also get 6 free hypnosis sessions that are valued at over $174, all for this trial of just $1. Even if you cancel, you can keep the 6 hypnosis sessions. That's my gift to you. And that's how confident I am that you are going to love Personal Growth Club. Go to personalgrowthclub.com and start your $1 1-month trial today.
Absolutely. And so hypnosis is really helpful with helping people find clarity because a lot of what's going on is, consciously we're thinking, we see our colleagues do this and I'm right there with you, Victoria. This is why I really, as much as I love getting up and speaking in front of people, it's a lot of work. And I love to consider, okay, so for the amount of work that it's going to take me to come up with this training and show up and travel and all of that stuff, is that the best use of my time, right? Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of clients, helping them understand, where's their zone of genius? Where do you show up And can you do this? And does it bring you joy? Does it make you happy to think about? And of course, public speaking can be nerve-wracking for people. But, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially, they realize that and they're willing to overcome it because they have a message to share. And, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with are authors. And these are folks who didn't really ask to have a tragedy in their life. They didn't really ask to have some type of transition in their life that now is actually helping them realize, I need to write about this. Like, I recovered from this issue, or I figured out how to survive a marriage, under these circumstances. I figured out how to survive Lyme disease or something like that. And they're writing books to help other people do that. And they want to show up, but they don't have clarity. And so hypnosis is just so fantastic because what happens is that it really allows the mind to focus on kind of like a single idea or a single thing in the moment. And I know, there's this idea that if you could kind of like be in somebody else's shoes, you could understand their situation, right? And I think that when we have the capacity to step outside of ourselves, right? So now we are in the moment, we are actually stepping outside of ourselves and almost looking at our life as somebody else would. It gives us tremendous insight. And from that position, a lot of entrepreneurs get the insight that they need and realize, oh my gosh, I don't have to do everything. As a matter of fact, I can do one thing, do it really well, love doing it, stay focused, and not, and teach them certain tools and techniques to not allow kind of like the overwhelm take over their nervous system, basically. That's a big part of the work I do with my clients, is helping them understand, how does your brain work? Why do you get anxious? Why do you get nervous? What part of your brain is responsible for that? And how can we control that with certain techniques that have to do with, whether it's a breathing technique or moving around, or if it's a thought-based technique, and helping them control and reset their nervous system. Because when people don't feel anxious and jittery all over the place, they can think clearly.
Absolutely. Oh, it's, you just go into, like, when you're anxious, you go into a fight, flight, or freeze. Exactly. And you really are not able to make rational decisions in that state of mind at all. I mean, you're just totally coming from a place of fear, and you're just not going to make good decisions in a place of fear.
Right. I mean, your brain doesn't want you to make decisions in that time of fear. The way your brain is designed is to divert blood from your brain to larger muscles so that you can run. So when that part of your brain gets initiated, your brain, the biological components of your brain, and this is just based on our, how we are made, right? It's run, basically. Mm-hmm. Like it's a fight.
For me, it's freeze. I find that my anxiety, and they rarely ever, when they talk about the fight or flight syndrome, it's fight or flight, right? But for me, it's freeze. Like my brain just shuts down. I cannot think straight.
And that's the most primitive one is freeze, and then after that is the fight or flight. But so yeah, it's different for every person. And I think it can be different in certain scenarios too. So, most people aren't going to get up and run away, but they might feel their heart racing, and they might feel as if you get that shot of adrenaline and cortisol, and you kind of feel like, your body is mobilizing you to save your life.
Right. To prepare to run from a saber-toothed tiger.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about, you're a 3-time best-selling author. Congratulations on that. That is amazing.
Yeah. It's really nice once as when you've been helping people for a long time, it is really good to be able to get it out and written down so that other people can learn from that material without you necessarily having to be there. When I finished my first book, then it was like out of my head on into the book. I did a whole video series on it. My first book is called Reprogram Your Weight. So it's how to lose weight with hypnosis. Mm-hmm. And once I got that material out, then I was like, okay, what's next, right?
Yeah.
And so now my brain can start focusing kind of on the next level of understanding, where it comes to why do we eat when we're not hungry? Why does this craziness exist? Because most people who have tried to lose weight in the past, there is an element of it that kind of feels crazy making. It really,
absolutely.
And you just, it's like, how can this just keep happening? And so once it's written down and in a format where you can just hand it to somebody, it really shifted the nature of my business, because now I'm able to give a book to my clients. They read the book, they watch the video series before I even begin working with them. And so they're already losing weight and getting success without me having to be there. Then when they show up, now they're on the ground running, so to speak. Now I'm able to help them in even bigger ways because they've already gotten that material.
That's wonderful. So do you, would you say, do you have a niche? Do you specialize more in entrepreneur, or do you specialize more in weight loss, or is it kind of a combination of both? Because I've heard you mention both, the entrepreneurs, but the weight loss seems to also be a big focus.
Oh yeah. The three things that I help people with, I would say, is weight loss, stopping drinking, and anxiety. But I just happen to help a lot of entrepreneurs with that. Now, my focus has shifted over the years as my business has shifted. And now that I have more hypnotists at our center helping with some of those things, I get to help focus on, I love helping entrepreneurs because they are out there wanting to help more people. So It's the same reason why I love teaching hypnosis certification courses, because I could see a single client and help that client. And when we help one client, we help their family, right? We help the spouse, we help the kids, right? It's never just one person that you're helping. But when I'm teaching a certification course, and I've trained over 150 hypnotists, now it's not just me helping a person one-on-one. When I train a hypnotist, now that hypnotist gets to go out and help hundreds of people every year, right? So when I'm serving and helping an entrepreneur, I'm not just helping that entrepreneur and their family. It's everybody that they serve. So when they get clarity on their message, when they lose the weight and show up and get up on that stage, when they understand and stop procrastinating or shift in the direction that is exactly right for them, and now they're just hitting it, and the life force energy is moving through them. They're a creator. They're creating the most amazing content and message in the world. They're working in their zone of genius. Now, my work has helped that happen, right? So I love working with entrepreneurs because they're there to serve more people. So, how can I show up and serve more people and help more people? Writing books, creating hypnotists, and helping entrepreneurs.
I love that. That's beautiful. It's efficient, it's a more efficient way of getting your message out there, because you're getting your message to a messenger ultimately. And so, and helping the messenger create their own unique message and get their message out there. And ultimately it's how this world is going to continue to expand in a positive direction. So it's wonderful. So what are some of the top brain hacks that every entrepreneur should know about? Well,
I have something that I call the CARE system, just so that it makes it easy to remember. The first thing starts with a C, of course, consuming. And so one of the things that we have to be very careful of, we talked about it earlier a little bit, is what are you consuming? Now, a lot of people consider consuming like something physical, like what are you drinking? What are you smoking? What are you eating? But I'm talking about what are you consuming in your mind, right? What are you reading? Who are you hanging out with? What are you doing on a daily basis, right? And so we have to be very careful with what we are consuming, because we know, and some people don't realize this, but we know that whatever you're consuming is going to impact you. Right. And so like most entrepreneurs who want to be healthy, you ask them, hey, do you want to, you pick any drug on the market or any like really unhealthy food. Hey, you want to eat 2 giant bags of Cheetos every single day for the rest of your life? And most people would say, no, that doesn't sound healthy. Well, what about consuming media that is negative fear-based, how about consuming 2 hours of that every day? How do you think that's going to impact you? People don't really consider that.
Yeah.
Right. So we should be just as careful with what we are consuming, what we are letting in our ears and in our eyes, and what we are reading as the other things that we are doing. And, it seems kind of obvious, but I can't tell you how many people just don't think about it like that. And they are not.
And especially right now, people are just allowing themselves just to consume all this fear. And it's so easy just to get caught up in that. And one thought leads to another thought, and another thought leads to another thought. But the same thing can hold true with positive thinking and consuming something positive. We can just decide and choose what we want to focus on and realize that, the best is yet to come. And we just want to, be vigilant about making sure that we're getting, we're feeding our brain with something that feels hopeful and inspiring. So I love that consume.
Right. And, the thing that I love to see, with this whole virus thing and everything that's going on is you see a lot of people who are fearful, and they're sharing all of the news, and they're sharing, oh my gosh, did you hear this? And kind of the chaos making. And then you see all of the people. I mean, isn't it beautiful? All the people that are showing up with, hey, I'm here to help. And hey, let's take a moment and breathe and be closer with your family. And let's look at the positive side of this. So you see a lot of people focusing on the positive. Anytime that there's a crisis, it's an opportunity for people to step up and serve and demonstrate that they are here for the greater good, and they're going to show up and lead, right? So this is where entrepreneurs and people like you and me, Victoria, we need to show up and be positive and taking care of ourselves so that we can be the example for other people to show up and do what's best for them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So moving on to the next is A, which is attention. So
attention.
So what are we paying attention to? Now, we could talk about advertising, marketing. We could talk about hypnosis and the ability to pay attention and focus. And we can talk about that probably all day long if we wanted, because hypnosis, to a large degree, is the ability to focus and pay attention. Mm-hmm. So what are you consuming? But beyond that, what are you paying attention to? And so this is, with law of attraction, this is very much about law of attraction. What are you paying attention to? Are you paying attention to the things that you want to see more of in your life, or are you paying attention to the things that you don't want to see more of in your life? And so we can all practice what we are paying attention to, and our ability to hold that attention focused on something that we actually want in our life. And so it's like, whatever you're paying attention to right now, do you want more of that? Because you're basically telling the universe you want more simply by the fact that you're paying attention to it. And so, the first, again, being consuming, what are you consuming? And then what are you paying attention to? And that's just in your everyday being. Right. Yeah.
And it requires a lot of self-discipline to stick with paying attention to the right thing. It really does. It's so, easy sometimes to get caught up in focusing on other things. And so I think it really requires a lot of discipline.
It really does. And one of the things that I think is important to understand, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but just our brains, the negativity bias that comes as being part of a human. And so just, I think a little bit of education goes a long way. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners are probably already familiar with the negativity bias, but just in real short, our brain is designed to pay attention to the negative. Mm-hmm. And it's designed to pay attention to the negative for our survival. Mm-hmm. However, with hypnosis and other tools, we can overcome our biology. It is what I call real-time evolution. And so when we're aware of this and we know that our brain is going to want to pay attention to that negative stuff, like I can feel it happening when I'm scrolling Facebook or when I'm talking, I can feel my brain kind of like, ooh, that looks really bad. We should make sure that that's not going to happen to us, right?
Right.
And I can feel my brain wanting to be satisfied by reviewing that kind of negative content, but I don't let myself. And I think just knowing that that's the way the brain is designed is really, really helpful.
It is, and I want to just touch on one quick thing. You said, just for those listeners out there, it's like, oh, I don't want that to happen to me. I mean, and that's the exact same thing as saying, I want that to happen to me, because the brain does not process negations without bringing that, whatever you're giving attention to into the forefront. So it doesn't matter whether you don't want it or you do want it. It's the same thing. It's you're focusing on what you don't want. You're going to attract that.
Exactly. And so one of the hacks, like real quick, one of the hacks would be, you notice something you don't want, real quick, what do you want instead? So it's like two sides of the coin. Oh, geez, I don't want that. That kind of like creates that desire. Like, I don't want that. Okay, what do you want instead? And if you put your attention on the thing that you do want instead, here's what I would want to happen. And you're thinking about that, and you put some emotional energy into it. So now you've thought about it. Emotionally, you are there kind of creating it in your mind. That is the best way to do it, is to think about what you do want instead.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
And the next is R. So it's response. How do we respond, right? We can't control other people, right? There's two things that we have the ability to do in this world. One is what we pay attention to, and the second is how do we respond? And so how do we respond to things? And I think that, one thing to keep in mind is it's really easy as entrepreneurs or, hypnotists or people out there, your listeners, I'm sure, are wanting to be the best in their life. That's why they're listening. They want the best. They want to be high achievers. They want to, they're doing self-development. They want to do all of these things, right? And so I think one thing that's really important to understand is it's not always fun or easy to respond in a way that is good, right? I mean, even right now, as we are struggling with this virus, it's like, it doesn't feel good to respond appropriately. I mean, sure, I'd love to just get on my rooftop and scream, this is terrible, and that's kind of like what my brain wants to do. But responding in a thoughtful way, responding in a way that is something that I'm proud of, right? Something that if it were, and what I like to think about is, if my actions ended up on the newspaper tomorrow, ended up on the nighttime news, would I be proud of them? Would it
That's a really good way. I try to think of, in my house, it's like I'm in a what do you call it, a reality show, and how would I want people, what if what if there was a camera on me at all times? And so even in my own private, I'm not perfect, but I really do try to practice what I preach. I really do try to be the person who is behind all of this material and really practice it in real life, so that I feel good about that. And I like response. When I hear the word response, I hear the word responsibility. In other words, we have the ability to respond. Hello, this is Victoria Gallagher. I hope you're enjoying listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. As a way of thanking you for listening, I'd like to offer you a one-time discount of 35% off your first order at hiptalk.com. Just go to hiptalk.com and enter the code podcast in the discount code area in your cart, and you'll receive 35% off your first order. Thank you so much for listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast.
Yep. Love that. Yeah, very good. And I think that there are times too when, like you said, you're human, I'm human. Sometimes I get frustrated and I forget all of my best stuff, which really bothers me every time, but I learn something from it. It's like, how did we get here again? I've been working on this, right? It's just, the moment that you become—
It's our humanness.
It is, right? The moment that you become aware that you wish you would have responded differently, that's when you say something. And I can't tell you how awesome it is to have friends and colleagues and relationships, what feels like very grown-up relationships with people where I would say, you know what, you're totally right. I wish I wouldn't have responded that way. That's not how I felt in the moment, but I understand it now. And this is what I wish I would have said or done instead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's not always easy to do. I think we have a lot of problems that humans experience is the desire for instantaneous gratification, just the desire to feel better now, right? Because there really is a lot of chaos, and even more so now, but just like, it's hard being human. It really is. And it's like we're expected to go to work and do all these things. And it's like we don't know what's going to be happening next week, especially right now. So we want to feel better now, right?
We do. We absolutely do. And I mean, this, this could be going on for quite a while. We don't know how long this is going to go on for. And, we're going to have to just be patient and detach and kind of like let go of the plans that we made. This isn't convenient for anybody. And, and so we I think we're all going to have an opportunity, a real opportunity to grow here. I mean, we are all going to really experience
there's no doubt
significant personal growth opportunities here.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the last one, so the first is consuming what you're consuming. A is attention. R, response, and E, energy. Now, people don't give enough credit to their energy. Now, if you talk to them, they'll tell you, oh, I'm tired, or oh, I'm dragging, or whatever, all of those things. But they don't talk about it to the degree to take action. And, I learned this, the first time I learned this was when I was helping people lose weight, because one of the ideas about losing weight is, oh, I'm feeling tired, I better eat something. I don't know where this idea came from. But
the food is going to give you, make you feel awake.
Right. And, if you're having sugar, that's probably true. But I think we can all agree that just
temporarily.
So we all know, we don't even have to talk about the dangers of sugar and how it's just not good to really consider existing on sugar anytime you're tired. But, it's so interesting when I have something called the broccoli-test.com. And the broccoli-test.com really is, how do you know if you're hungry? Well, would you eat broccoli?
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great, that light bulb just went off, you really can, because, is it that are you trying to fulfill some other thing, some other craving that you're having? Because there's a difference, right, between a craving and truly being, what's the word? Hungry.
Truly being hungry. And the brain people love like this binary test, like, am I hungry or not? They're like, look, I haven't been hungry for years. And that's true for a lot of people. They just eat ahead of their hunger, right? So the whole idea with the broccoli test, by the way, it doesn't have to be broccoli for every person. It should be something that you like, but you only will eat if you're hungry. So you're not going to stress eat broccoli, for example, right? But the point of the broccoli test is, if you're not hungry, you have to do something else. And the bottom line is, meet the needs of your brain. Meet the needs of your brain. When you're meeting the needs of your brain, we don't have to turn to alcohol to feel better, or cigarettes to feel better, or food or sugar or something like that. And so a lot of the work that I do really comes down to this very kind of simple concept, is meeting the needs of your brain. And I'm not just talking about the brain in your head. I'm talking about, we can consider your heart brain. There's enough neurons in your heart to be a brain. There's enough neurons in your stomach to be a brain, the vagus nerve. So how do we truly meet the needs? If you're tired, the best thing to do is rest. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people won't give themselves permission to just rest. And they keep pushing. And sometimes they make mistakes. You hear about like the reply all mistake, or you hear about people making mistakes. And a lot of times it's happening at the end of the day, when, guess what? If they would have went home for the day and just said, hey, boss, I'm out of here, they would have been in less trouble by leaving early than they would have by the mistake they end up making when they're tired.
Yeah. No, it's so true. That, just giving yourself permission to, just being able to tune into what is it that I really need right now? Because it's, it's not food, it's not cigarettes, it's not alcohol, it's not caffeine, it's not sugar.
Yeah.
It's, what is it that I really, really need? And so, how can you get those answers through, and can hypnosis help us to get those answers?
Oh yeah. When I'm working with clients, one of the things that I like to do, I like to ask them questions and get a quick answer. And so one of the things that I'll say, if they aren't sure what they need, I say, I want you to answer this quickly without thinking. If I could snap my fingers right now and something could be true for you, what would it be? And so just imagining that you have the ability to instantaneously manifest, it's just, you're just pretending, right? Pretending is a very powerful word. So pretend you can have anything in the world happen. I snap my fingers, what is it? And without thinking, people will just say, I wish that he would come back to me. I wish my house would sell. I wish I was in a different job. I wish my mom was feeling better. They'll just boom, boom, boom. They know exactly what they want. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times it's hard for them to truly understand it or articulate it, because I think a lot of the conscious mind and cognitive things interfere with the ability to kind of tap into that. And that's why hypnosis is so powerful.
Yeah, it really is. Mm-hmm. Hypnosis is amazing.
Yeah. So that's it. Consuming. What are you consuming? What are you really, ingesting into your heart and mind? What are you paying attention to? And there's a difference between consuming and attention. Consuming is really you're like watching a television show, or you're reading something. You're actually consuming something in your mind. Whereas attention is like you're in your regular everyday life, and it's like, what are you noticing as you go in your regular everyday life? And then how do you respond, and watching your energy. If you can take care of those 4 things to a greater degree, lots of other things start to fall into place.
That's wonderful. That's a great tip. And CARE is a great acronym, and it's caring for yourself at the highest level. Consuming, attention, response, and energy. Yeah. And those are the things that we need to focus on to continue to improve ourselves and to ultimately get what we really want. What we really want. Yeah. Rather than what we think rather than what we think society thinks that we should need or have or something like that. Yeah. Exactly. This has been really fun. This has been really enlightening. I'm really glad that I got to have you on the show today. And is there any just kind of last final words? Let's see. You've got a few. You've got your blog, your website, and your Facebook page here, which I'll also have in the show notes. But let me just mention the site here is Cascade Hypnosis Center.com for more information. You also have your blog, which is the same website, hypnosis-blog. And then Facebook, you can be reached at facebook.com Cascade Hypnosis Center. Yeah. Yeah. So I would just say for everybody, take a moment to take in a deep breath and just be in the moment and allow whatever you're feeling right now to move through you. The latest science says that our nervous system can only generate a feeling in our body for 15 seconds. And so if you're feeling a negative emotion, just allow yourself to feel it. It'll burn off, basically. What we tend to do is want to drown it with alcohol and cigarettes, and sugar and stuff like that. But if you really can just allow yourself to sit with it, it dissipates and you will feel empowered. So isn't that true? And I've experienced that where, and I talk about this too. It's because it's what you resist persists. So you can expend so much energy trying to cram down and not feel that emotion. But yeah, like you said, it's like if you just allow yourself the experience of it, it's not like you're going to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and get drowned in that emotion. You're just going to feel it, and it's going to pass. And then you'll feel something else. And then maybe you'll feel it again, but it's a wave.
Exactly. Yeah. It's awesome being a human when you know how to let those feelings move through you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your wonderful insights and information. And I really appreciate you being on the show and helping us to navigate through some of these things that many people have been dealing with. Whether you're dealing with weight or the procrastination as an entrepreneur, or just what we're dealing with these days. These are some great tools to help you to to navigate that. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been my great pleasure to be here and talk with you. So thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends. And once again, be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast if not already. We can be found as Hip Talk on all our social media accounts. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course at hiptalk.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast, and you'll be instantly notified the moment the next podcast becomes available. Also, please be sure to leave a rating and a review to tell us how you're enjoying these episodes, and that way you're making a contribution toward others getting to share in this valuable information. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast, brought to you by HipTalk.com, Personal Growth Club, and HypnoCloud apps available at iTunes.